I've been thinking a lot about the barbaric practices of older societies, and usually those practices are punishments for a person or group that is damaging the rest of society. Slavery, gulags, public executions, book burnings, stocks, or even banishment to a desolate place were all common not that long ago. Australia was a penal colony where Britain dumped off people like it was a landfill for criminals and losers. The Mormons were forced to settle in Salt Lake, Utah, after their leader was murdered and their members were so harassed and tortured across the country they had to flee and were basically banished to the middle of nowhere. As I said, we tend to think of these practices as barbaric or anathema to civil rights or democracy. But think of where democracy has led us to now, where the most insufferable aspects of our society have the biggest voice. As I have been exploring in my Hell is Empty series, these older, more barbaric solutions are starting to sound a lot more attractive, a lot more viable. I'm starting to see their worth. Are there not groups of people who are absolutely responsible for the destruction of this country, who were so emboldened by the lack of any threats against them, the lack of any retaliation by the public or the government against what they were doing, that they acted with impunity? The clip of the Disney executive comes to mind when she talks about her experience at Disney. She thought that there would be some sort of stigma to what she was trying to do, but instead found it to be a welcoming place. She explicitly says this: maybe it had been that way in the past, but they were turning it around. And with all that momentum that I felt, that sense that I don't have to be afraid, there it is, to have these two characters kiss or adding queerness to the show wherever I could, no one would stop me, and no one was trying to stop me. Here's another way to think of it. When there is no punishment for acting poorly, you incentivize poor behavior. Think of the LGBT movement. Their whole motto is to be yourself with absolutely no judgment from other people at all. And they've worked hard for the last 30 years to remove all social stigma and consequences for being gay. And there's a considerable amount of the population attracted to this because they're terrible people. And now they find the communities that allowed them to be empowered. Think of the despicable little cretin Chris Chan. He was a loser who was judged his whole life for being a despicable, gross pervert. And then he discovered the LGBT movement, and it gave him a community that refused to judge him. If you watch that massive documentary on him that's on YouTube, then you would know that one of the few moments that he was actually ever really happy was when he cross-dressed and he went to a gay bar. He was surrounded by people who obviously think he's a little weird, but the environment is one where he is accepted for the weirdo he is. Let your freak flag fly. When your whole movement is about refusing to judge people, you will attract people that need judged the most. I've been working on an episode about human nature and how it's perceived by people on the left and people on the right. Human nature is key to this conversation because if you believe that people modify their behavior based on their environment, then you're on the right path to understanding how punishment works. It's sad to say, but how many people would commit murder if it was suddenly made legal? How many people would enter relationships with their siblings if it was made legal tomorrow and all stigma was removed? If theft was made legal, how many people would steal? Well, we're seeing the answer to that in San Francisco right now. And so the opposite must have some truth in it as well. If the penalty for grooming kids in your kindergarten classroom was an instant 25 to life, or worse, I doubt we would see the brazen activity of the teachers we do now. If the penalty for encouraging and raising your kids on any part of the LGBT spectrum was to have them taken from you and re-educated, as well as you serve some serious prison time, I think we'd have less trans kids who go on to kill themselves. If the penalty for coming to this country illegally was being instantly deported if you were found, I suspect we would see less people coming across. If the penalty for spreading lies on the news or censoring on social media was the seizing of your company and the imprisonment of the people that did it, I doubt we'd see what's happening now. And if you think I'm being harsh, remember that this sort of stuff is already being committed against us right now. Remember Kim Davis, the county clerk who was sent to prison for refusing to issue a marriage license to a gay couple? We've totally forgotten about her. Or Julian Assange, who's in prison for exposing the activities of the elites. Or Dinesh D'Souza, who was in prison for minor campaign contribution violations to the wrong person. Or Roger Stone. These are all examples of people who were punished for their political beliefs. And you don't have to like them to understand my point here. The left isn't afraid of doing this to us because they realize that the point of punishment is to put fear into people. You should be terrified to be in America illegally, and it shouldn't surprise you to find out people here want you gone as well. You should be terrified to admit you're raising your kid gender neutral, or your kid is trans and you support it. You should be afraid that the cops will show up the same day that you admit that in public. You should be terrified to commit crimes that lead to the ruination of this country. I want to show you a video from a transgender conference that the School District of Philadelphia encouraged teachers to go to. This was reported by Christopher Rufo on Twitter, and I'll leave the link in the description to the thread, where there's a lot more info on what happened. But anyways, let's watch some of the conference together. And keep in mind that this is a conference for teachers to become more educated about the lives of the transgender children in their classrooms.
The purpose of this workshop is to showcase different types of prosthetics available for sex. Almost every single one that I will be showing you, all of them actually, look like penises. I have tried and touched many dicks, all right? Prosthetics, real dicks, all dicks. This is one of the most realistic feeling in terms of like the inside of a penis, all right? And now a pack and play is going to be a prosthetic that you can use for sex, but you can also pack with it when you're not having sex. You're just walking around. It's your everyday packer that you just wear in your pants. And then when you're ready to get in the mood, you're boy-yo-yo-yoing and you can go and have sex. But here, that it's a big boy. This is like gigantic, all right? Give me 2 hours alone and I'll get this in my butt, you know? Like it's just, but let me tell you, I know it's not for sale and I'm not reviewing it, but it's really soft. Like it has a hard core and then the outside is just like memory foam. It just feels really good. I do like the fuse, like for anal sex, this is really, really great. If this person is more used to having sex with, I mean, my choice will always be the joystick.
In a sane country, that wouldn't be allowed to happen. It wouldn't be allowed to hide behind civil rights or human rights. We should go Kaiser Soze on these people, but we don't. And so the problem grows and grows. In 2007, Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad spoke at Columbia University. Quote, "In Iran, we don't have homosexuals like in your country. In Iran, we do not have this phenomenon. I do not know who told you that we have it." And the media is quick to point out that 200 people had been killed that year in Iran for the crime of homosexuality. So it's not that they don't have homosexuals in Iran, it's that they don't tolerate homosexuals in Iran. And as a result, the numbers stay pretty low. If we only had 200 gays here in the US, that'd be a breath of fresh air. Can you imagine? But in essence, in America today, we're like the cancer patient who knows the full severity of the diagnosis but refuses to do any treatment. Instead, it's all about tolerance. It's about learning to love the cancer, learning to coexist with the cancer, refusing to do what's necessary so that we can, be on the right side of history. The second rule in AA's video, 10 Rules for Truth Seeking, is this. Your basic assumption about people of the past should be that they knew what they were doing and made laws for good reasons, not that they were backwards or barbaric. Is there some truth in how all societies and cultures and governments conducted themselves until about 12 seconds ago? I don't know. I'll let you decide. There's a well-known analogy that speaks to this, and it goes something like this. A progressive and a conservative are walking along in the countryside when they come across a fence. And the progressive says, "Hey, I'm trying to go over there. And this dumb fence is in my way. It needs to come down now." It's holding us back from progress. The conservative says, hold on a minute. Maybe there's a reason this fence is here in the first place. Maybe it's there to protect us from something in that field. The taking down of fences is the civil rights movement. It's gay rights, it's open borders, it's diversity, it's tolerance, it's modern monetary theory, it's critical race theory. We all know where the lines used to be. And right now, we're all out in the field living out the penalty for trespassing. You either discipline yourself or the world will do it for you. Anyways, that's all the time I have for today. If you enjoyed this video and type of content I'm making, consider giving this video a like or subscribing to the channel. I will see you all in the next video. Peace.